What up, peoples? We are live on Plan and Traffic. My name is Louis Lee from All Ends Magazine, and I'd like to welcome everybody. And we are going live on Facebook and YouTube. So if you guys want to come over to our chat room, just click on the picture in Facebook, and it will bring you over to Crowdcast if you want to play around in the chat room. And we have Tori. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tori DeBlasi from Long Island, New York. If you have a troublesome rear differential, not to worry. I have all the essentials for your rear differential. And tonight, I'd like to welcome our very special guest, Brad Fanshaw. He's an industrial designer, automotive fabricator, innovator. I mean, he does everything. Timepieces, BMX. He was involved with Boyd Coddington. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But the show, Brad, is about you. You're our special guest. So we'd like to welcome you, and we'll get it started. Thank you for coming by tonight.
Tell us a little about yourself and where you're from.
Oh, man, where do I start? I'm out here in Anaheim, California, guys. How are you guys doing tonight? Well?
Good. Well.
Good.
A little chilly, but.
Yeah. He's in the East, and I'm in the Midwest.
Yeah, we're out in the Midwest. Whereabouts?
Ohio, Youngstown.
Okay, so you guys still have a little bit of chilly weather going on, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, got down in the 50s last night, guys. Here, it'll be 90 by the weekend, though. So,
Brad, what airport do you live at? I'm gonna get my shorts. I'm gonna get my sweatshirt. I'm gonna bring my bag with light clothes. I'll be right there.
There you go. But no, I mean, that's why all the car people and all the car stuff. I always tell people they always say to me, "Man, if I lived in California, because." The builders and the shops and the part companies that are out here. But let me tell you, I actually, having been spent my high school and college years in Nebraska, I've lived both places, and there's great stuff about each of them because that's where I really got into cars was in Omaha, where people, you guys know how it is. It's where all winter long, you're just waiting for the thaw. We're out here, we get so damn spoiled because it's happening all the time. And in some ways, I think it's better.
Yeah,
agreed.
This is Ray. I'd like to introduce you to Ray. He's from Motormouth Radio. Go ahead, Ray.
Hi, Bradley. How are you? Ray Guarino,
Motormouth Radio. How about you?
Very good. A little cold. I'm on the East Coast with Tori and Louis.
Everybody's talking about the cold. I feel bad.
Brad, next time we have you on the show, if Lou doesn't show up or has trouble logging in or whatever, we're going to do a redo. We're going to have you back on again because, like I said, I want you to meet Lou. I want you guys to talk and stuff. So if he doesn't show up tonight, this is a dry run. We'll do it again. I promise. Okay?
Okay. You're on. So where do you guys want to start?
Well, let me ask you a quick question. I mean, you have I did my homework on you. And like you said, where do I start? There's the BMX years, there's your design years, you're into, media, and you're into manufacturing, you're into, directing and producing. Where do we start? So I remember you on Speed from Street Wars. So, why are we starting the BMX years where it was at the very beginning? How'd you get involved? Where did you start? Who were your influences? And, who had the biggest influence on the path you've taken and who you've become today?
Okay. Well, I think one of the things that when you talk to a lot of people that are involved in custom cars and stuff like that, if you're in a certain range, they go back to BMX, BMX or freestyle or something like that. And I think it's because all of us loved going fast. We all loved being mechanical. And that was our first chance to get our hands on something tangible. We could customize that BMX bike, and it taught us a lot about wrenching, welding, all of that. And then we got to go compete, see who was the fastest or who looked the best, who could jump. And that's kind of the roots, and that I know for me, growing up in Southern California at the time, I was in San Diego, and I just looked at all of these different custom bikes that I could get involved in. And what's funny is as I got older and got to meet a lot of guys that were actually older than me, I found out like the guy who started Motomags and Mongoose Bicycles, old drag racer, Skip Hess. He had, Skipper's Critter. He has a Thames, Anglia. And then I found out that guys like, Roland Leong, he was involved. Don Perdome was involved. All these people, because they all had kids, and that was another form of racing and customizing. So all those guys were kind of my original inspiration, not only for cars, but getting started in BMX. And then friends of mine, like Bob Haro of Haro Bikes, who's a good buddy of mine, and we've been friends since we were kids. He was such a great designer that it gave me a chance to see how you could integrate design into that whole customizing process, and that's kind of where it all started. And then I moved. My dad came home one day when we were in San Diego, and he goes, "Hey, guess what? We're moving." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, cool. I'm surfing, I'm skateboarding, I'm BMXing." And I go, "Where are we going?" He goes, "Omaha, Nebraska." And I'm like,
"Oh, geez."
Where's that? And like I'm in junior high. And so left all my friends behind, moved to Nebraska, moved there in February, no less.
Oh.
And man, let me tell you, culture shock. And but best thing ever, because I got back there and the bikes, the skateboards, all of that became secondary because everybody had a cool car. I was turning 15, and that was, there were so many. I can tell you, just in my neighborhood, there was a guy with a lightweight 64.5 Galaxy. There was a guy with an LS6 Chevelle.
Oh, wow.
There was a guy with a Baldwin Motion Camaro, and that was just on my block. So you get thrown into that, and it's time to get going,
Yeah, Ray and me are in the backyard of Baldwin Motion. Joel Rosen, right, Ray? He's a cornerstone, a big part of our history here on Long Island. So
even back there in high school, I used to shop there and buy my stuff. I couldn't buy the big stuff, and I couldn't have them work on my cars because I was I was young. But I used to go there and buy carburetor kits, and I still have some books that I bought there, and small stuff. So Brad, after having that influence, what did you drive, or what did you put together, and what was your four-wheel of choice?
Well, my very first car, I got real lucky, and it was a '67 Chevelle SS 396.
Nice.
I'd call that lucky.
I was 15. I had a paper route. I'm earning money, and I decided that I was going to sell my YZ80 motorcycle and get a car.
Oh, Yamaha.
Yeah, and so Dad came home and he goes, "Hey, I don't know if you're interested or not, but this buddy of mine over in Iowa, he's got a car for sale." And I go, "What is it?" And he goes, "I don't know what year it is. It's a Chevelle SS." That's all I had to hear, guys. And I was like, "Yeah, let's go look at it." And, went over and found out that he was the original owner.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm the second owner of the car. And it was a SS 396 car, but it was a real oddball because when he bought it, the only reason he got the Super Sport was because he wanted to tow a trailer, so he wanted the big horsepower. So it came from the factory with a bench seat and a power glide behind a big block.
Wow.
And, when I first got it, my buddies were all like, "Oh, man, it's a power glide." But if you guys are into drag racing, you know that those two-speed power glides were great behind a big block and got you going down because they had that long first gear.
Oh, yeah.
Dropped a high stall converter in it. Man, I never looked back.
You mean that second gear in a Turbo 350 is first gear in the Power Glide. So, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Do you still have that car?
I do, as a matter of fact. I'm a real pack rat,
Me too.
Hey.
I've got that. The joke of that car with my buddies is that I took it off the frame in 1980 to make it into a Pro Street car. Bought all the stuff, the 9-inch, the tubs, everything, and then I moved to California. And the car sits in the building off the frame. And the joke is that when I took it apart, it was a high mileage original. Now it's a low mileage original. Because all my other projects have gotten done, and it just keeps sitting there in the corner going, "Yeah, it'll be next. It'll be next."
Yeah.
So it's an 80,000-mile original car now. So.
Do you still have the original pieces that came with the car, the 12 bolt and the 396, or?
I do. I've got everything for it, and thankfully, the body came off, but I never tubbed it or cut it up.
That's where I was going. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, I was just talking to a guy from the AutoZine the other day, and he's got a car that's it's a 34 Dodge, a 34 Plymouth, and he had it since high school, and you know, it's sat for many years. And years ago, he finally he took it apart and did all the. He's a body man by trade, but he took it apart and did all the mechanicals. He was really into doing the mechanical work. Put it all back together, and that was time just to have body work and paint. And the car is sat for another 15 years. And I asked him, Steve, why? You're a body man. He goes, you know, I had so much fun doing the mechanical. I do body work all day. I don't know. I think that's what he says. Listen, you got to do a show and talk about how projects stall and how guys, you know, what you have to do to get back on track with the project. And I said, yeah, okay. You know, you just need determination. You just have to say, I'm just going to do it. You know, but it's a great topic, you know, and I'm open to hear what everybody has to say because I want to share that stuff with everybody else. So, Brad, what do you think? What do you think your impetus would be to get you to work on that Chevelle again?
Having extra time. Extra time. I mean, because I've built so many cars, and that one just keeps getting pushed back because it's one of those things like a SEMA project comes up, and it's got a hard deadline. Has to be done by the first day of SEMA, right?
Yeah.
And so it gets done. The my El Camino, it got done 3 times because it was my tow car when I used to race the Chevelle, and I would tow it to the track or tow it to the street drags or whatever. And that one got done because I don't remember what year, but Carcraft Street Machine Nationals in Indy, and I wanted to take a car, and the El Camino was the likely choice because I had just put nitrous on the Chevelle and I threw a timing chain. And so I go, I got to have something ready. So I start doing the El Camino. And what happens? The El Camino gets done and the Chevelle sits in the garage. And, and then when Boyd and I were partners, I pulled it apart and did a full Boyd type build on the car. And It got done again. And the other car still didn't get done, you know? So that stuff happens. It's just, and there's good things and bad things about it because if I would have butchered that car all up, I probably wouldn't have kept it. And now I know exactly how I want to do it. I'm still not going to leave it stock because that's not me, but I've got ideas on how I want to do it, kind of blend how I would have built it back in the day, but with new parts, you know, the parts that are available now that we can't get, you know, back then.
That's what we've all been doing. And, you know, we call that resto modding at its finest.
Yeah.
What year was that El Camino?
It's a 71 big block.
That's the Chevelle I'm restoring now for Mike. I'm doing a 71 Chevelle Super Sport for him. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that body style. It's a great body style, and that was one of those cars that my mom had it. She had bought it, and she was an antique restorer, and she would haul antiques around. And then one day when she was going to get rid of it, I latched onto it, and it was nice. It was mine from then on. So that was a cool one.
Yeah, yeah.
But you talk about motion cars, guys. I've got one of those too.
Do you?
Wow. Do tell, please.
It's Baldwin Motion Vega. And
sweet. Yeah.
There's a really cool story behind this car because back before I could ever even think of affording anything, I was living in Arizona, and I used to go to the Barrett Jackson auctions and started by, kind of looking through the fence and watching everything. And then, got to the point where I could make a little bit of money, go and walk around, spectator. And it was probably about, I think, I'm going to guess, maybe about 1984. I was there and I saw this Baldwin Motion Vega, and it was sitting under the tents, and I took a bunch of photos of it. And most people out here on the West Coast don't even know what Baldwin Motion is. Mm-hmm. And so I saw it, checked it all out, read the whole history of it. And what was interesting was, they only made, and Joel told me he only made, it was either 6 or 8 of those cars.
Wow.
And they all went to racers. And so none of them are around except for this car. And the reason it survived is because it was bought by the founder of Pizza Hut. And he bought it not as a race car, as a street car. Drove it a little bit and put it away in a warehouse. And it over the years, it wound up with Reggie Jackson in his collection.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And Reggie's a huge muscle car guy.
Big collector, yeah.
And this car was original. I mean, 20,000 miles on the odometer. It had the Moroso front runners, had the McCreary tires in the back.
Oh, I
They
remember
were
those.
hard and gross, but they were original. And so one day, when Boyd Coddington and I were still partners, Reggie came in and he fell in love with this hot rod that we had. And it was one of our high dollar street rods. And so this was when muscle cars were super soft in the late 80s. And he's the one who had bought it at Barrett Jackson. And he starts doing some trading with Boyd and winds up that some cash traded hands, a 69 Copo Camaro, and the Baldwin Motion Vega for this one hot rod.
Wow.
And Boyd gets done with it and he looks at me. I'm drooling over this car. And Boyd goes, yeah, some V8 Vega. I go, Boyd, Baldwin Motion Vega. And he goes, do you want it? And I go, how much? There you go. Marty, sure. My car was supposed to be in there, and Marty and I hooked up a little too late.
We call him Uncle Marty over here.
Marty's awesome. That guy's great.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what happened was I ended up buying the car from Boyd, and he had no clue. He just thought it was a V8 Vega, and it's been part of my collection. And I get calls all the time from people that want to buy it or want to know about it, or, hey, I'm building a clone. Can I come over and, stencil the stripes? And I'm like, nah, I'd rather that you don't, But, it's awesome.
That's one of the cars I always wanted, a V8 Vega, period. And I just found out a buddy of mine that works at SK Speed has a 76 Pontiac Astor wagon.
Oh, yeah.
And it's clean, and it's already set up for a V8. It just doesn't have an engine and transmission in it. He sold it to a buddy who did a 5-lug disc brake conversion on the front. It already has the rear in it, and he wants to sell it. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, here's my chance. It's like
you're doing one of those, Vega.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, they're cousin cars, and it's and you don't see the Astors. That's the thing. You just don't see them around too much, especially wagons. No
kidding. And they've got that. They really say Pontiac on the front, the way they did that front nose and everything on them. Yeah. So
very distinct, very unique.
What's that?
That's my link to the East Coast.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty damn big link.
Yeah, for sure. So, Brad,
and I will say that Marty did correct me. He goes, Brad, your car's not a Baldwin Motion car. Everybody calls them Baldwin Motion, but he goes, at that point, we'd separated from Baldwin, and he goes, it is a Motion Phase 3 Vega. And I go, okay, thanks.
That's correct. Yeah.
So,
yeah, Baldwin Motion denoted Baldwin Chevrolet's involvement. That was the Chevy dealer that the cars went through that were new. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Marty was just up here last year. We did a live remote with him out at a car show out in Whitestone. And
that's cool.
So we get to see him every now and again. Every few years or so, we get to sit with him, and he's such a great guy, man. He's talk about a wealth of knowledge, and the books that he writes are just fantastic.
Yeah,
great historic pieces.
Super nice guy, like you said, and a wealth of knowledge. And I got to spend such quality time with him and Joel Rosen, because when they did the reissue cars, remember the 69 Camaros and like that, they all have my wheels on them. They have my company's Bond Speed wheels. And so that was a great opportunity for me to get a lot of quality time talking about, my car and the company in general, and got so many great stories from them.
Yeah, that's good. That's
crazy. But, you're not just Bond Speed Wheels. You're also Bond Speed Media. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, Bond Speed Media is, basically what my company is called Bonneville WorldWide. And my business partner is Michael Anthony. If you're into rock and roll, Michael Anthony. Van Halen. And he is currently, they're up in the studio in San Francisco right now because they're getting ready, him and Sammy and the band are getting ready to go out on tour to promote their new Circle album. And that's pretty cool. because he's still rocking, still filling places up, and big car guy. And so Mike and I, we love fast boats, fast cars, watches. And so Bonneville WorldWide is kind of just a melting pot of all that. And we have Bonspeed Media, where we create and produce television. And then we have our podcast company, where we have shows such as CarCast that I do with Aaron Hagar, Sammy Hagar's son. Excuse me, not CarCast. We do Shift and Steer, which has which has Matt D'Andrea from CarCast, and then Sammy Hagar's son, Aaron Hagar. And then I also do a show called Man Seeks Adventure, that's Cars, Bars, Eats, and Adventures. And on that show, I have Heather Storm from Garage Squad on Velocity, and which is now Motor Trend, I guess. And then my other co-host is Dave Merrick, and Dave is the head of global design for Honda and Acura. It's a big way of saying that anything that comes out of their place, he has approved it and had his hand on it. And he's a great guy. And then we've done other shows. Mike Brewer from Wheeler Dealers. We have Mike Brewer Behind the Wheel. Him and I do. We did a show called Mike Brewer Behind the Wheel, and then Larry Dixon, the 3-time top fuel champion. We had a show with him, and it was Dixon's Wild Ride. And so we're always creating new shows, coming out with those, and you can go to the websites, get all the back episodes. Then the rest of the company is, of course, we manufacture right here in Anaheim, California, Bonspeed wheels and Bonspeed steering wheels, all forged billet aluminum wheels. And then we have a watch company. It's Bonneville Watches right there. We've got a Bonneville watch, all mechanical watches. And a lot of people say, watches, what are you talking about? How do you get into watches? We have a watch factory in Switzerland, and it's an outgrowth of my love for watches. And like a lot of people, if you love cars, you love things that are mechanical, and you love the aesthetics. I mean, how many times you walk up to a car and go, God, I love the way that car looks. Yeah. Then you find out what the drivetrain is. Watches are the same way. A guy who's into watches, they get it for the aesthetics. And then if they're really into them, they want to know what drives them. What's the movement? What's, tricked out on them? And I was real fortunate because I had some heritage there. My great-great-grandmother is from the Breitlings and Breitling watches. And when I sold my interest in Boyd's years ago, back in 1996, I sold out my interest. I was the second largest shareholder. And when you're that big a shareholder and you're the person who took it public and you're sitting on the board of directors, they make you sign something that says, this is a non-compete.
Right.
And it was funny because I remember looking at it and going, okay, I can't do wheels. I can't build hot rods. I can't make go-kart wheels. Where'd that come from? It was like some real odd stuff in there. And so that was a 7-year non-compete. So
wow.
I went, you know what? I'm going to go to my next love and do watches. And that's when the watch company got started. And it actually was pretty interesting because I went over to Switzerland, started meeting with people, and I had a guy tell me, he goes, you're the first American that's ever come here that we want to talk to. He goes, most of them come over, bring us a watch and say, could you make it look like that? And he goes, you brought original designs. And he goes, plus when we walked through the factory, you told us how to use the machines to make it. And it was really interesting because the machines we had at Boyd's in our factory were the size of a Volkswagen. The ones over there, identical, even to the brand name, they were just smaller. And so I was able to teach them some machining processes that I learned and that they had never thought of for watches. And it made a great relationship with the people in Switzerland.
What an incredible story. That's awesome.
So
now I got some question about your wheel company.
Okay.
I seen a set of wheels that I can't find who makes them. I can't find, nothing about them. But I love the style of the wheel. It looks like spokes, but it's a rim. Can you do custom one-offs like that?
We do. We do have a custom shop program. What usually separates us from getting them done is cost. I mean, most people call up, they go, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then they find out how much it is to do a one-off. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that it's not just the machine, it's the engineering, it's the CAD CAM work, and we've got to make sure it's going to be, there are some companies out there that you could bring them a design and they go, yeah, sure, we'll do it, and they don't care. We care. We won't build it if we don't think, because a lot of people have ideas, but they don't understand the radial and lateral loads on the wheel, and we don't want to hang on the wheel. It's going to be a danger to anyone, So, right, but yeah, definitely do. And we've done a lot. You see a lot of these Cadillacs with sombrero hubcaps, or, the wheels that look like hubcaps, or the wheels that look like they got a white wall. I mean, we've done everything like that. We've done wheels for car companies, for prototype vehicles. Some of the cars that you see it, you got the New York Auto Show going on the East Coast right now. And, we've done wheels for cars that are in those booths and things like that. So
nice.
It's interesting. It's always fun because it's something new every day.
What's your website for that?
It's Bondspeed Wheels with an S, bondspeedwheels.com.
Okay.
And you can go there, and we're getting ready to update it because we've actually got a bunch of new styles that aren't even there. But you can request a catalog, and our catalog's just been updated. But you can go there, see all the styles. You can see all the powder coating we do, finishing. There's a little bio there on Mike and myself, so you can see Mikey, and it's a lot of fun.
What's probably going to happen is I'm going to go on your site and see the wheel that I've been searching for.
Maybe.
You should be so lucky.
I'll tell you what, though, is that today with Instagram, we post wheels every single day on Instagram. So if you want to see just everything that's going on, then you go to Bondspeed Wheels on Instagram, because you're going to see there not only the wheels we make, but customers that send us their cars, and then you're going to see how they fit, how they look, and, and a lot of people think of us as a super high-end premium line, which we are as far as the quality. But what a lot of people are pleasantly surprised to find out is that although our wheels are absolutely the best quality, and you will proudly put them up against anybody on the market, our prices you'll find might be a little bit less. And the reason is because we made a decision about 10 years ago that we weren't going to continue to keep our truck and trailer out on the road, do all kinds of advertising. We had such a good word of mouth that we rely on that, and we don't have to load the wheels with a bunch of cost for advertising, and people really like it.
Oh, that's good.
That makes a lot of sense.
Louis, where did you see those wheels?
On Instagram. Or no, actually, I see them on Pinterest. So when you click on it, sometimes it'll take you to the site, and sometimes it takes you to nowhere.
Right.
So
yeah, it's frustrating.
It took me to nowhere.
Yeah.
The link to Bondspeed Wheels is listed, as well as the Instagram account. So for all the viewers out there, go there, browse, do some shopping, and speaking of shopping, Brad, you have to be one of the most interesting people that I've come across for the show. You seem to, it's like you're the guy who's done it all, which is just crazy. Tell us about Vision.
Oh, okay. That's one of those iconic brands that, what's really funny, guys, is in the music industry and in the entertainment industry, when I bring up Vision streetwear, Vision skateboards, Sim snowboards, people, they utterly freak out because we were so much part of that industry. But Vision, I was the vice president of a company called American Bicycle Association. We talked earlier in the show about BMX, and I was running BMX races. Well, a friend of mine who's also named Brad, his name is Brad Dorfman, he founded Vision Streetwear, Vision Skateboards. What he did, it was a real smart guy. When skateboards peaked the first time and then everybody went down and went bankrupt, he bought up all the brands. And so when it came back, he owned Schmidt sticks, he owned Sims, and he financed all this stuff, and it was awesome. And so when he came in, he he grew like a weed. He literally, in like the first 5 years he was in business, he went from nothing to $10 million in sales.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And we got him involved in BMX with the Vision brand. And one day we were at a big ABA Grands event, and he came over to me and he goes, man, I love what you're doing. I love how you run these shows and everything like that. And he goes, how would you like to live in California? And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, listen, man. He goes, I need somebody like you. Why don't you move over? And he goes, I can share part of the company with you. You come in and we'll do great things. And I did it without looking back. And I told my wife, I remember saying, we'll just be in California for, give it, 5 years. And well, that was back in 1984. So I've been here a while.
Nice.
But,
Very cool.
But I came, and in 5 years.
Wait a minute. Wait, did she come with you?
Yeah, she did. I left her, followed me. No, she keeps me straight and honest. She's the one who she does it. So, but I came over here, and it was the best 5 years. We went from 10 million to over 120 million in sales in 5 years, and give you some of the touchstones, like all the guys with skateboards in Tom Petty's video Free Fallin'. Those are all my skateboarders, all my skateboards, and I was there when they filmed it, and then like the movie, if you remember a movie called The Burbs, all the guys, Corey Feldman, all them, they were all in our apparel, all riding our skateboards in the film. I mean, Earth Girls Are Easy. I mean, I can just keep going down all these old 80s films. I
wonder whose GTO that was in the Burbs. The 65 GTO. I want to know whose GTO that was in the Burbs. The red 65.
See, you're good man.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did so much with bands. We worked with every single rock band that you can imagine, from Guns N' Roses to the Rolling Stones to, that's how I met Mike, with Van Halen, because their road manager was Poison's road manager, and we did tons of stuff with Poison. The guys from Poison used to come by my office at Vision like every Wednesday to see what we had going on and get close. And I remember Ricky Rocket had come in with his Carl's Jr. bag, sit down and eat his lunch and say, what do you got going on? What cool stuff are you doing? And like Liv Tyler came through with her dad.
That's awesome.
All kinds of cool stuff. And we just grew, and we were in entertainment, and we were in snowboarding, and had all of the top skateboarders. And that company grew to a point that it was a huge corporation. And that's when my partner, Brad, basically said, you know what? I didn't really want it to be a corporation. And so sold off a lot of the company, pared it way down. And that's when I sold off my division or my part and was looking for the next thing to do. And there was this guy that I knew who was building some cool hot rods up the road, and his name was Boyd Coddington. And so I had been by his shop a few times, and I went up to see him, and I said, hey, Boyd, I'm going to be up in Stanton. I said, he goes, yeah, stop by. And he goes, man, that company of yours, he always wanted to know how Vision was doing, because he was a business guy, and he always wanted to know how we were doing it. And I said, well, I'm actually not doing that anymore. Sold out. And he goes, what? So we started talking, and the next thing you know, about 2 weeks later, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I handed him a check, and we shook hands over a dumpster beside the hot rod shop, the original hot rod shop. And he called me the next day, and he goes, Brad, you got to come over and see this car we just finished, because it's going to be gone tonight. They're coming to pick it up at midnight. And so at 6 o'clock that night, I drove up, and Cadzilla was there.
Wow,
and
no kidding.
Yeah, it was literally just finished. And excuse me. And so I got to do a walk around, showed me every detail of it. And then it went on a transporter that night to go meet up with ZZ Top. And that's when we started. I always say Cadzilla was going out one door, I was coming in the other. So and then we grew.
I own a leather company, and I'm making Joe a purse right now. Actually, probably should have had it done last weekend.
So what do you do with the leather company?
I make purses, wallets, gun holsters, watch bands, everything,
Cool.
anything leather. And I'm making her a nice purse that she can carry when she go to car shows and stuff.
That's very cool, because I have this weird fascination with, like, leather goods, and because with my watch company, I go to France and pick out the hides for my watches, and you go through. And here's the funny thing, guys, is that they only use Louisiana crocodile, so the crocs are from Louisiana. They skin them, they fly them to France, they make the straps, and then I got to get a special permit from the wildlife preserves, from the game and fish people, to bring it back in the country. To, once it's a strap. So it's like,
wow,
wait a minute, they started here.
Yeah.
I've always said for years, that, when I get out of line, my wife always gives me leather goods. A nice boot in the ass and a strap in the mouth. A belt in the mouth. I'm sorry, that's what the other one was. Yeah,
that's an East Coast thing, Ray. So
yeah, I know.
But
I tell you, man, Boyd, he really started the ball off with these TV shows and really pumped it up. He's highly missed.
Yeah, Boyd was a good guy. There's it's funny because Boyd and I had he's one of those guys that a lot of people, you talk to him, you don't know how they're going to come back. Boyd Connington, or oh man, Boyd Connington. And I can honestly say, Boyd and I had such a great relationship and such a great, working relationship. And it was because we were it's like a good marriage. We were opposite enough, but we were alike enough. And, his abilities complemented mine and mine complemented his. And, and then we just had such a great group of guys. The one thing that everybody always talks about is, we hired Chip and we hired Jesse, and those guys went on and everybody knows their name, but there's all the other guys that, that
you don't hear about,
that really bent the metal, that did all the fabrication, did all the heavy lifting in the hot rod shop, and like that really made us, allowed us to get those great cars out the door. And we used to have great night meetings where we would sit around and, what are we going to do with this car? What are we going to call this car? And then Boyd and I would come back the next morning and we'd get with the guys, and that was one of the best, the best remembrances of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Brian, Matt Goldman is a real pip. Let me tell you. He's talking about the ancillary characters on the show. I guess some of them became players. Some of them became actually players on the show, and we talked about them on this show and in the past and on my radio show and all. And the one that always comes up is Blue Bear, and Brian just asked me to ask about Blue Bear because he was one of our favorite topics.
One of the things that that my career, and my partnership with Boyd was over by the time TV came around.
Okay.
Because I always say we were pre-TV days, because we were in Stanton, and that was back when we built, we built the Zoom, a Luma Coupe, Smooth Stir.
Oh, Luma Coupe, yeah.
And Chip worked for me, and Jesse James worked for me, and all of that, was I call it the golden years. And then I sold out my ownership in 96, and then around, late 97, early 98, he had some problems and went bankrupt. And then when he came back with the TV show was at the new shop. And, but what's funny, and what a lot of people don't understand, is that it all came back around, because Boyd and I, we didn't talk for almost 10 years because, it's I said it was like a marriage. So when you separate. And he wasn't super happy that I left to go do other things. And so when that happened, we'd see each other at the Street Rod Nats or Good Guys or SEMA or whatever. And we'd kind of pass and kind of do the, the look. But then over the years, we kind of kindled that back up, and right at the time of his death, we had actually gotten back into business together, and he had just introduced me to all the guys at the new hot rod shop and said, "You're gonna start seeing Brad here all the time. We've opened up the wheel shop in the back. We're gonna make Bond Speed and Boyd's back there." We had partnered on that, and I was getting back involved in the hot rod shop, and then he got sick, and then he passed away, and that was probably the most unfortunate thing.
Right.
Those shoes will never be filled again. But
well, yeah, at least you got back together. That's good. You got to resolve that. A lot of people never get that.
Yeah, no. And you know what, guys? It was not only being partners with Boyd and all the great people we had around and all the great things we did, but I am so fortunate because I talk to people all the time, and coming in, because I was relatively young when Boyd and I became partners, and I got to meet so many hot rod heroes on a different level because they would come by the shop to like jaw and talk and bench race and things like that. Like everybody from like a Don Perdome to like Big Daddy Ed Roth to I mean, you can just almost go down the list of the guys that came through our shop and got to know on a really personal level. And nowadays I'll be talking to somebody and they'll go, "Man, I always wanted to meet that guy." And I'll go, "Oh, well, let me tell you." And they kind of look at me like, "Wait, how do you know all these people?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, they came by the shop, So I was real fortunate. It was really a cool time.
Yeah, but you know what? You have to look at it this way too, though. You were very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time to partner up with Boyd. And even though he passed, the stories that you have to share with him, he lives on, and you're carrying the torch, which is pretty good. You're like the bridge or the link from the beginning till now. So, we only have an hour. I can sit here all night listening to stories of, Boyd and, what he was like in the shop and, who worked for you. And it's fascinating to say the least. So, amazing.
I appreciate that. And it's fun. It's fun to go through all those stories. And, I'll tell you one real quick, guys, is that, I got to be very good friends with Pete Shaporis from SoCal Speed Shop. And, him and Boyd were good friends. Bob Bowder, Little John Batira. It was all like a big group there. And over the years, Pete and I became very good friends. And after Boyd passed, Pete and I became even better friends. And Pete and I did a radio show called Rod and Custom Radio. And I had invited him on, asked him to be my co-host. And it was great because we had Pete's history back to Pete and Jake's and everything he'd done.
Wow.
And everything I'd done. And we'd invite people in and we'd get people to get on the show that never, would come on anybody else's show, but they would because they knew Pete or they knew me. Well, then one day I said to Pete, "Hey, Pete, we were syndicated in 50 markets across the U.S. And the problem is that, as you guys know, why is a podcast good? Because people can listen to it whenever they want. Well, exactly. We were on 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. Where's everybody at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning? They're at a Cars and Coffee. They're at a car show, or they're taking their kids to soccer or something. So I said to Pete, there's this new thing that my friend Adam Carolla turned me on to called a podcast. And I said, we're going to go do that. And he goes, is that going to be better for us? I go, yes, I think it will. I said, I know it's a chance because we got to give up the syndication of the radio show. I said, but we're not reaching enough people there. And so I remember he looked at me and he goes, okay, boss, whatever you say. And so we did it, and it was the best thing ever because that's when we brought Aaron and Matt on, and it just exploded, And I remember we launched at SEMA, and Mother's Waxes was our sponsor, and we had it next to their semi, the very first show we'd ever done. And we wanted to load it because we were like, we got to make this because we promoted it. We brought all these people in. And our first guest was Billy F. Gibbons. And, so Billy came over. We got him on the air. And right before we went on air, we were trying to get a hold of a Guy Fieri. And he was there being paid to sign autographs. in a booth. And he texted back and he goes, I can't leave early because these guys are paying me a lot of money to sign autographs, but I have always wanted to meet Billy F. Gibbons, so count me on the show. And about halfway through, all of a sudden, here comes this guy. You see the crowd kind of, being pushed aside, and I see it's Guy. He's pushing his way through the crowd, and he goes, I'm here. And we swing
awesome.
around, and it was so cool because he literally was sweating. He had run from the booth to get on the show. And so our first show couldn't have been a better success because we had Guy Fieri and Billy F. Gibbons. And
that's great.
And then our show, we had all these great hot rod heroes. And I'm like going, how do we top it now? So, so that was fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know what the funny thing is, though? I texted you before. Do you know Guy Fieri? I've been trying to get a hold of him for the show because not only is he a celebrity chef, but he's also a big car collector as well. So I thought that would pair well as a guest. So I'm going to keep trying. We'll see what happens. I don't know when I'll get him, but I'll get him eventually. So
yeah, and I'll tell you, Brad, if you ever want to pay it forward, we'd love to have you on Motor Mouth Radio one day. We do the same thing. We do a Sunday show, which it was a handcuff, but now with the internet, it goes out to, we're on iHeartRadio, Performance Motorsports Network, Spreaker. We put it up on our own website. So, and we have more people, I think, that listen after the fact than listen live. Because like you said, my last co-host and he used to always say to me, I was a stat guy. So I always, track the stats of who's listening. We'd have a light day, light calls. And he'd say, after the show, we'd be all ticked off. What are we doing wrong? How come nobody called? I was like, look outside. It's a beautiful day. What would you be doing if you weren't here? You'd be out doing something else like everybody else. So you're right. In the after effect, people listen afterwards. So, we work on this lag where I get questions and things emailed to me sometimes a month later, like, I just caught up with the show and whatever happened with this? And like, what's he talking about? So, keep you on your toes. So
that is the thing you get, because like ours live on our website forever, and we'll get an email from somebody and go, hey, in episode 52, or they walk up to you at an event, hey, in episode such, and I'll go, I don't remember that one, man. That was 3 years ago.
The thing we get is because we're New York guys, me and my co-host Joe, we goof around a lot, and with ourselves and with each other and with the callers sometimes, and people just walk up and say buzzwords to us like, "Hey, I heard you say blah blah blah." I'm like, what? What? Like, oh yeah, and you got to remember now when these people listen, now they feel they have that connection, so you can't walk away from that. You have to embrace it. So we have some fun with it. I was like, okay, tell me when it was, and I'll see if I can remember. So,
that's what's fun about it. It's that interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
so Brad, I have a quick question for you also now. So you're into, radio, you're into podcasts and other media. So you were also involved in TV. Tell us about, car chases and car warriors and how you became involved and what led up to you, being involved with the shows.
Well, going clear back to Vision again, back then we had our own in-house production company called Unreal Productions. And so we produced a lot of the skateboard videos, snowboard videos. And we also, back then, ESPN was just emerging. And we used to go put on a skateboard competition, BMX race, where we would actually be the promoter of it, or a snowboard event. And our crew would come in and we would film this. So that was where I got cut my teeth on television, is doing action sports programming. So I always say that Boyd and I were the pioneers of the whole TV thing, because for anyone who remembers, we used to always do a themed booth at SEMA. I would sit down, and that was kind of what my thing was, is I would design a booth, and then we would do a whole theme around that, whatever our giveaway was, everything like that. But one thing we used to do was, and this was back, in the the early 90s to the mid 90s, when, a big, huge wall was, spectacular. People didn't have huge screens and stuff back then.
Yeah.
So we would produce a video, a new one every single year, and it would premiere at SEMA. And it was all about us debuting cars, out, at shows and things like that. And nobody did that back then. And they were called the Wild Wheels series of videos. You can find some of them on YouTube. And so as we progressed on, a lot of that was taken and made into the first TV shows and like that. Well, I wanted to stay involved in that. So I started reaching out to people, and I worked with a company here in LA, and there was a show called Car Warriors on Speed. And the first season had George Barris and, a few other people and Jimmy Shine on it. They retooled it for the second season, and I came on as a co-host and their technical advisor on screen, where I was on screen helping the teams, but I was also one of the producers on it. And that show, it was huge. It was immensely popular. But what happened was, if you guys remember, Speed got bought by Fox.
I remember.
Fox, they killed every single show because all they bought it for was the households. And so that show got killed. And I went in. I wanted to keep involved in that. So, like, if you're familiar with Car Chasers on NBC, what was interesting about that was the executive producer of Car Warriors and one of the co-producers that I worked with on Car Warriors, they were Jeff and Perry Barn. They were the talent, so we switched tables. I'm behind the camera and they're in front of the camera, and that was a fun show to work on. And what's interesting about Perry, what a lot of people don't know, Jeff and Perry are both big car guys, but Perry, super hardcore car guy. And he was a stuntman. That's how he got into the career. And he was his father was John Wayne's stunt double for John Wayne.
Kidding.
And that's how he got in. And he was trying to remember the actor, Dancing with Wolves. What's the actor's name? Kevin Costner.
Right.
Perry was Kevin Costner's stunt double. And like in Waterworld, and he has so many great stories. And so it was fun to work with those guys on that show. And then most recently, if you know the builder Steve Strope, we just finished a show called Hand Built Hot Rods that I was part of. And I helped bring in Billy F. Gibbons to do the voiceover on that show. And so always keeping, I got 2 new shows that I'm working on right now that hopefully you're going to see really soon, and just keeping our hands in that, trying to keep really good automotive shows, out there.
Right. Now, do you do, like I had a gentleman approach me. He drives the big monster trucks. He does the tricks and, the racing. And he wants to do something with a show. Do you take, what do you call demos or look at other Yeah,
I do very carefully, because the problem with that I get from a lot of people, hey man, let me send you this idea. And the problem with it is that you're opening yourself up to, because, if we've got something on paper that's already, we've flushed out everything like that. So we will, but we won't take them blindly. We've got to, kind of do some due diligence first so that we don't get ourselves into trouble. Because
that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of people that say they have an idea, and I'm being honest here, guys. They'll go, I got an idea for a car show. I go, okay, what is it? And they'll go, okay, 2 guys, and they build cars in a garage, but one of them doesn't really know what he's doing, and the other guy's really an expert.
Genius.
Okay,
never saw that before.
No.
Well, I don't know. That's for you to do. You're the producer. So it's because when we pitch a show to a network, it's like I've got one right now. We do a whole written, deck that's got everything flushed out, who the characters are, who we might cast. We even reach out, like this show, we've already got contracts on the people that if it goes, they're already attached. And so we can say, this guy will be the host. This guy will be the lead builder. And then what we do is we shoot a sizzle reel. So we put a lot of money up front, and, it's like building a spec home. You're You're building it and hoping that they like it as much as you do,
Right.
and that's what we do. And the TV business is really fickle because what's hot one week is not the next. For a while we went in and everybody said, well, do you have something like Storage Wars? We need Storage Wars for cars. And so you'd go back, you'd work on it. And then by the time you got back, they go, no, we don't want anything like that anymore. And you go, last week, that was only 4 days ago. And they're like, nobody wants that anymore. You're like, oh, geez.
Wow.
4 days late, the dollar short, right?
Yeah. So what do you think about the streaming? Like a lot of stuff is going towards streaming and a lot of people are doing their stuff on their own. What do you think about that?
It's huge. That's where everything's going because like how many people are probably watching this on an iPad or on a phone? And that is because it goes back again, just where podcasting was, where it's convenience. People will watch it if they can do it when it's convenient to them and when they want. And I mean, whether it's cars, home improvement, whatever it is, think about how many times we've wanted to do something with our car and you go,
YouTube.
I'm gonna YouTube that and then you know how to do it. My Yukon sitting outside, I had to replace a headlight. I'm a car guy, but you look in, you go, come on, you move the battery and the inner wheel housing.
Yeah. I have an 08. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right?
You can ask Macco Man Brian, man. They sell special sockets that are like 8 inches long just to get in through the wheel well to get into the screws that are up in the front. And Macco has a set of them too. I saw it. Which is cool.
You go, why would they do? Well, there was a guy on YouTube. He goes, here's the hack for it. Showed me. I was able to get it without taking out the inner liner or anything, and not even have to remove the battery. I'm like going, that saved me so much time, and so yes,
donate some money to them.
Yeah, exactly. But to answer your question, streaming's where it's at. We're going to see TV shows, everything. I mean, how many people right now stream to their TV at home? And it's like my media company. Okay, here, ready for a commercial, guys? My media company is doing a new show that's going to launch in the second quarter of this year that we're really excited about because it is going to be a weekly video cast. And how many of us used to go to the newsstand, buy a magazine? Anybody go to the newsstand, buy a magazine lately? Okay, so where do you find your new products that you used to look for? We used to go to those 4 or 6 pages and go, new products, what's the hottest, coolest thing that everybody's got? Those aren't there anymore, or if they are, it's hard to find them. So then, everybody, like I'm a manufacturer, so I said, okay, well, we'll start putting new products out online. Well, if they don't come to your website, or if we don't have the right algorithm so that hit you, we don't find them. So we're launching New Products Podcast and New Products Videocast. And we've got all these great companies that we've already got lined up that every week in a video format that you can watch on your phone, your iPad, your computer, you're going to be able to see all the hottest new products and then go right to our website with a click through to the manufacturer or the distributor and buy them. And that way, you're not just going to see a static photo and a written press release. We're going to show you with great photography the product. We're going to show you how it works. We're going to give you specs, and we're going to tell you what we think about it. And that way, you're going to be able to tune in, and you're going to be able to go to our website. And like, let's say you're not ready for a nitrous system yet, but you go, man, I remember on New Products they were talking about, nitrous, and I want to do that. You'll be able to go to our website, punch in nitrous, and every nitrous kit we ever talked about will come up, and then you can choose what you need and what relates to your build.
Yeah, then it's just a matter of SEO, and then drive those people to the site. And exactly, I talk about that with my web guy all the time. It's trying to and of course with social media, it makes it easier because those, like we talk about, like how come the web hits are down, and he's like, why do you think that is? Like, because they get what they want on social media. We put the stuff up on Twitter and Instagram, and they hear a podcast, so they don't have to come to the. He goes, exactly, So you're constantly fighting yourself, but you have to be aware of all of it. And it's
yeah. Excuse me, and we want to make it easy for them, right? I mean, we want to make it easy for them to purchase or buy or hear what we're talking about.
Yeah,
right. Whole new world, I tell you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't resemble where we all came from, where we all started. I mean, I was 14, 15 years old in the 80s, and you got this brown paper bag newsprint called Hemmings Motor News, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you call people up, say, "Hey, I'd like to buy the NOS 66 Chevelle NOS bumper guards," and your phone bill's $175 a month. My parents wanted to kill me because I was calling all across the country. And then I'm a kid, so it's like, hold on, let me put mom and dad on the phone. They're going to mail you a check because I'm only 14 or I'm only 15. And, these are the days where your word meant something, where you told them the check was going out in the mail, but 4 days later you got a box. Yeah. And you call to say thank you. And he'll say, well, your check didn't arrive maybe tomorrow, or it just came yesterday, or, and that's how relationships were formed. Now it's so different. And the new generation will never get a chance to experience that, unfortunately. But I'll remember it, and I'll keep telling the stories. And hopefully, the new generation will understand and listen to the stories, Well,
I remember going down to the Omaha World Herald because, the trucks would load at the back dock. So as soon as the papers came off the press, we'd buy one right there because you'd go to the classifieds and find the parts or the cars that were for sale, so you could be the first. Yeah. I remember, we'd be calling these guys at 10 o'clock at night and going, "Yeah, you still got that dual carb set up for sale?" And they go, "I didn't even know it was out yet," And
you're the first call.
That's what happened with the Bylines Press. Guy, you call the next day, guys were jumping you because they were getting the paper, like you said, at the dock. Like, damn. Yeah,
it was,
no chance.
That's how you got them. I mean, that's how I made a lot of money in high school and college, was buying and selling speed parts. And gosh, I think of the stuff now that I found. I mean, original factory NOS, dual quads, and guys, $10, and you go, okay, you turn around, clean it up a little, and sell it for $125. Now those things are, priceless.
Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing. It really is. So I'll tell you, I still have a list of stuff, but it's already 10 o'clock. So I'll ask you, Brandon.
What do you want? What's your favorite one? What do you want to know?
Well, no, I mean, okay. So out of all your builds, which one was your favorite? And then after that, if there's anything we missed tonight that you'd like to speak about, the floor is yours.
It's always hard. It's like choosing your favorite kid, right? But if I was going to say one favorite car, it would probably be, if you look up Michael Anthony's Fire Roadster that we built for him at Boyd's. Mike came in and he knew he wanted a 33 or a 34 hot rod, but he wasn't sure how he wanted to build it, how he wanted to go about. So basically the car that he has is the car that I vicariously built through him. It's like, I just built exactly what I would have built for myself. It's black with Dennis Rickless flames, and it's a Boyd build with a small block Chevy and a red leather interior, and all kinds of little details. And then what we did is, how it would work back then is Boyd and I would we'd put our brains together, what the car would be, and Boyd, I will admit, had the final say on everything, and he also had a lot of great ideas. And so then, before Chip worked for us, Chip was working freelance, and we would send him or one of the other guys that did stuff for us, tell them what we wanted. They'd send back a drawing. We go, no, change this, and then we would present it to the customer. In this case, Mike. And Chip did draw that one, because at that point, Chip was still doing freelance for us, but he was, I think, 1 foot in the door at that point. We hired him shortly after that. And I showed it to Mike, and Mike was just grinning from ear to ear. He goes, yeah, that's a rock and roll hot rod, and we carved his trademark chili pepper in the rear end cover, and that was the subtlety that it was his car. And to this day, he says he will never sell that car. That is his car. He loves that car. And, and it's just the quintessential Boyd hot rod. It's just a really cool car.
Right.
That's awesome. So, out of all the things that we haven't covered tonight, is there anything else you'd like to share with us this evening?
Wow, that's tough. I mean, it's always hard talking about yourself. Telling stories is one thing, and but it's just, what the one thing I would say that we haven't covered is just all the great people I've got to meet and got to be friends with. I mean, I could just go on and on, but I mean, like the Bob Bowders and the, Little John Buteras, and, I got to know him, but I got to like work with him. Like Little John Butera, he was a hard guy to get to know, and we became really good friends, and we, we produced a line of billet aluminum cars together, and we did, some really cool little projects. And, but then there's other guys like, Troy Trepanier, who, Troy came into our shop at Boyd's when he was like 15 years old. And I had met him at the Carcraft Street Machine Nationals, him and his dad, Jack. And we're still friends today. And, you just go through all these builders that you watch grow up and become these, just incredible craftsmen. And it's funny and humbling when they go, "Oh man, I remember when I used to come by Boyd's and see what you guys were doing." I look at them, I go, "Dude, look what you're doing," I mean,
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? But I mean, and then even because of my love of cars and because of what I've got to do with action sports and everything, all the people I've got to meet, from celebrities to talented designers and all around the world. I mean, it's like, when you can, because of what I've done in these businesses, get to say that, part of Tom Petty's, iconic video, and you look at InXS's, album cover, and I was there when they shot it, and it's our skateboard, and then, going out to dinner and talking cars with Billy Gibbons, we're friends, and Michael and Sammy and, Eddie, and, all these people that, the cars bring them together. I mean, it really does. It's such a cool thing, because I always say that it doesn't matter if you're in a room of people and you got, Wall Street bankers, musicians, actors, and some guy who's a busboy. But if they're all car guys, they're all going to get along because they have that one common bond. And whether this guy's into Ferraris and that guy's into, Mazdas, they're all going to be able to talk about something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, that's true.
It's
Hard to
on
be
our show,
prejudiced at a car show.
on our show, my co-host and I were both music guys, so we always say cars and guitars, even though I'm a drummer. But still, it's, those commonalities that bring us together, and they're kind of universal threads. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there's something for the next time I'm on. We can talk about how did you guys ever see the billet aluminum guitar that we machined for Michael Anthony?
No,
I haven't seen that. No.
Well, there you go. We'll have to talk about it.
Ooh.
I'll have to look into that.
The story of how it was created on a boat in the Gulf off of Cabo. So,
You see, Brad, that's what we were talking about before, though. It's, the cars or the guitars, they're amazing. They're awesome. But the backstory behind them is what brings it all together, where you have an interesting car and an interesting story to go with it. And you bring those two together, you have a combination which is just, it's for the ages. It's immortalized.
It's been a lot of fun. I've been really fortunate to be around so many cool things in the California culture. It's it's fun. If you don't mind me giving a little plug, if anybody wants to go to bradfanshaw.com, there are some great photos there of my days at Boyd's, the BMX, and the Vision Streetwear days right there. So
cool. Tori's going to put it in you putting it in the chat room, Tori?
I sure am.
Cool. Yeah, man, we really appreciate it, man. You're bringing back history. You're bringing back history. Sorry, Lou couldn't be here, but
well, that'll give us a reason to do it again, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you, I had a blast. I mean, just talking to you over the past couple of weeks, and just leading up to tonight, I was so excited to have you on the show. And what you said also too, it rings true with me. The people that you meet, the friendships, and the relationships that you forge, by doing this. I mean, I never thought, in a million years I'd be doing something like this based on, my past, and I was always a car guy, but I never saw myself here. I was a fireman in East New York, Brooklyn, and 9/11 happened and things changed, and here I am. So not a bad place to land, Brad.
I know, and you know what? I'm glad you said. I didn't even clue in on that accent until just now.
No kidding, really?
No, but you're right, man. That's it's our Shift and Steer podcast has been up at the Syracuse Nationals, for a couple of years doing live shows up there, and it's so cool because now there's people that I run into at SEMA and things like that, and it's like they're all like, yeah, and we're buddies now. It's because it's like you guys. Now I know you guys. When I see you somewhere, like, hey man, yeah, how you doing?
I'm gonna tell you something. I've had this been in the back of my head, and I couldn't put it together. And we have met, and we met at the Syracuse Nationals a couple of years ago. You and I, yeah.
Yes, I remember we were in the pinstripe area together.
That's yeah. In the I forget what the hell that building was called, but yeah, absolutely. Damn.
Small world, right?
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Small car world.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the thing though too, because we had Heather Storm as a guest on the show. She was awesome. Now we have you on the show, and you guys co-host a podcast together. And now I'm talking to Aaron, who's going to be a future guest as well. And she seems like all the circles seem to be intersecting. And Louis, you're right. It's a small world, and it's still pretty cool though that I'm getting to meet all these people and to bring them, to the show for our viewers, for our audience, and just spreading the word. It's amazing. What else could I say? I'm having a blast doing it.
Good for you guys. That's great.
Excellent.
And you had a heck of a story yourself. I mean, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for inviting me on, guys. Anytime. It was great meeting all of you, and it's always fun telling old stories.
And Brad, I actually may have your contact information from a few years ago, but I'll get it from Tori again, and I'll reach out to you see if we can get you on the radio show.
Not a problem.
Do a quick thing there too. Appreciate that.
And I'll probably get a hold of you next week for other stuff, leather stuff. Because I know you need some leather. You're ready, right?
So, all right, guys, and if anybody wants to follow me, I'm on Bradley_Fanshaw on Instagram, and I post there almost every day.
Hold on, let me take care of that right now. So
put it in the chat room.
My co-host is I make him give the Instagram account every week because it's real_Motormouth Radio, because it was actually a Motormouth Radio taken, and he hates doing it because of the underscore. He couldn't make it do it on his phone, and he had so much trouble with it. But I'm like, come on, it's just another keystroke.
I didn't realize I had like 11,000 followers, and I was Bond Speed Brad, and then I changed it to Bradley_Fanshaw because somebody said, "Oh, you should have your name." I didn't realize that when you did that, you lost everybody and started over.
Right,
and
I didn't know that.
So go there and follow because I need to get back up there.
I'll get you up there. Yeah, we'll do that. Sure.
I'm already following you, so
Cool.
We're good.
Oh, you're following me, so it says follow back. So all right.
All right.
All right, cool,
good.
Bradley. Man, appreciate you coming on, man, for sure.
All right, thanks,
And
guys.
Listen, you can come on anytime. You don't have to be invited. You're part of the family now. I tell everybody this. Just come on anytime. You got the link, and just jump in.
Cool. I'm gonna go eat lunch.
Lunch.
That's
I'm
on my
ready to go to
game.
bed.
I'm gonna go eat lunch.
Yeah.
Brad,
All right,
thank you for
guys.
sharing part evening with us. We appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Have a good
bye-bye.
night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Take care.
Let's see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, you just hit the X at the top of the screen. You're good to go.
Okay,
All
we're
right.
following you right now. We already got you on Instagram, so took care of that already. It's great.
Ray, was that awesome or what?
That was great. Yeah, Brad's. And I it was like I said, it was nagging me how I knew the name, and I knew him from somewhere, and I couldn't figure it out. And sure as hell, man, we met at the Syracuse Nationals because we were up with Artie's party, Artie Schilling, pinstriper. And that's where they had the media stuff set up, and I wasn't in a position to do any kind of a remote at the time. They offered me the table and the stuff, but Artie introduced me to Brad. And I remember speaking with him for a while, and he was such a nice guy. I think I got a picture with him. But now it's a few years ago, so it kind of faded back into the memory, But
yeah, it was great. We'll do it again when Lou comes. I mean, he's down in Tampa, filming, so he probably had trouble, with the iPad again. So we'll do it again. Hey, John, how are you?
Eating dessert.
Nice.
What is that, Strudel? You got a piece of Napoleon?
No, it's a one of those like fruit and nut bar things.
Oh, Christ. Tell us
Part of my
something
diet
good.
plan, my man.
Yeah, I know. I should complain. I put fresh fruit in my yogurt this morning. Oh. I like that.
That guy was good. He knows a lot of people.
He sure does, man. Yeah.
I
Awesome.
did my homework on him. I mean, I have a list of stuff. I mean, we only had an hour, so I really couldn't,
It goes to show you, though, when you have the right connections and the right wherewithal, how you can weave
Just
through
keeps
those.
multiplying. Yeah.
You come out of one door into another, and you just, like you said,
Isn't that the truth?
I'm out of the one business, and let's do watches. It's like, yeah, okay, why not? Yeah.
And the part that got me was the same machinery was used doing the rims, the wheels and the watches, and he showed them a few. I am so impressed with him. I can't tell you.
The stupid little things I always wanted to do, and I don't know if I will in this life. I always want to learn watch repair. I know a woman who does clock repair because she rebuilt the clock for my Pontiac, but she doesn't do watches. Just something I like. Oh Christ, what's his name? I'm blanking out. Anyway, the mechanicalness of it is what draws me. Just like he said,
Yeah.
If you're
Tiny parts too.
mechanical stuff, it's neat stuff.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? Like, I don't have the patience for really, really small stuff. I repaired Lionel trains. I can still do it. Transformers, locomotives, couplers, what have you. And that's O gauge Lionel, so it's pretty sizable stuff.
Yeah.
However, you get to N gauge or HO gauge. You want to take this thing and throw it against the wall. I mean, it's just so tedious. And Z gauge is like, jewelers. Yeah. I mean, I can't do that.
I still have my Lionels from the 50s.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's God, the locomotives probably weighs what? What do those things weigh? About 4, maybe 5 pounds.
Yeah, and they're substantial.
It's got the number
metal.
2027 on the side.
Yeah, that's the first magnet traction locomotive. One of the first ones.
It's a 262.
Okay, got it.
And it's got that coil in the front. You drop the little pill in the smokestack.
Oh yeah,
You got the unit that takes you your direction, and you have the smoke unit where you put the pill. Lionel stopped making the pill, and they were using liquid smoke. And then some company wound up getting the rights to make the pill again.
Oh wow!
So now I bought a couple of bottles of pills. I'm jamming in the smokestack, and they work great.
It's got the tender, the coal car behind it with the whistles built into it.
Nice.
I've got the Sunoco, a silver Sunoco tanker.
Yeah. 65 Sunoco car.
I've got a log car.
3461
flatbed that automatically dumps when you go over that one track with the little magnet in it.
Yep.
I got the red caboose. I've got a orange box car. I forget what freight line that is. Well, it does say Lionel on it though.
New Haven.
Yeah, New Haven. Yeah, it's an orange box car, but it's got the Lionel logo.
It's a 64.
Yeah. I have track, and it's my friend had the Lionel track that was maybe it wasn't Lionel track. It had brown plastic railroad ties.
Well, there was a trick for that. So you can use Lionel track, and you get balsa
But I didn't
wood.
have that kind of track. I had the track that was just the 3 metal strips. With like 3 feet on each section.
Right, exactly.
And you plug it in. Yeah, and my buddy, you know what it is? I think the ones that my friend Steve had, they may have been from like Bachman or something. They were a lot nicer actual track. It had railroad ties. Those were pretty cool. But yeah, I still have those trains. And when we were cleaning the garage, getting ready to move all the car stuff here, I uncovered them. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen these things in years. And I said to myself, maybe I ought to put these things up on eBay or something, you know? And then I'm like, nah. And I just put them up on a shelf.
Well, they're yours from when you were a kid. So,
yeah.
That's like me selling my father's line.
I have stuff that disappeared. I don't, stuff that I know that I had when we lived in Queens on Horace Harding Boulevard, right on Horace Harding Boulevard.
Gotcha.
Looking over the LIE.
Wow.
Yeah. I only lived there till I was had just turned 5, and then we moved to East Northport. But during the move, stuff disappeared, and I think the movers, the 7 Santini brothers.
Yeah.
I think they took it. There was this little house, and a little guy came out holding a lantern when the train went by.
Which tower? 445.
Yeah. There was a tower with lights, like a crossing kind of another thing. And there was a styrofoam mountain tunnel.
Yeah. I've seen
Never made it to East Northport.
Wow.
Yeah. My old man was a little pissed off at that stuff.
I don't blame
They claimed that they didn't know anything about it. But the set was originally my uncle's, the uncle that owns Lombardi's.
Nice.
They were given to him by my grandfather, and then he gave them to me.
Yeah.
So they were from early 50s or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. And I still have them. And, they got some wounds and scars on them, but everything
they were well loved and played with.
Yeah. I no longer have any Transformer. I don't know. I used to have that big one.
I'll bring a ZW. I'll bring one down to you. That's no problem.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of those.
So it was that really, really big one. It had the red and the green lights on it and 2 handles.
The ZW. It controls 4 trains or 2 trains and a bunch of accessories on the secondaries. I repaired so many of those. I bought cords by the hundreds, rollers by the thousands, and the whistle rectifier discs. I mean, the soldering iron was going constantly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know it very well. Awesome. I was at a train show one year, and one guy was like, "What are you doing? You'll never get that thing back together again." I had a customer. He had a cracked base on the ZW Transformer. It was his Transformer when he was a kid. So there's a gentleman that lives here on Long Island. His name is John, good friend of mine. And I bought the base. So all I did was I just took everything out of the broken Transformer base and put it to the new one. So this is the deal, though. You need to, get a hammer and a screwdriver, knock a pin out to release the secondary handle. I see an old timer walking by saying, "What are you doing? You're going to break it." I'm like, no, this is how they come out. And he tells me, "You're going to break, you'll never get it back together, guys. So come back in about a half hour." 20 minutes later, the thing's going back together. And he's like, "How'd you do that?" I did it once before. More than once before,
Got it done. Got to get it done.
I had people bring me like quadrajets and hollies all apart in a box, and they like, "Here, take this."
Yeah, I got that too.
It'll never go back together. I'm like, yeah, you got a few minutes. It's like if you didn't lose anything, and even if you did, I got enough. And like you said, 20 minutes, it's back together. Like, how do you do that? I'm like, I read a book. I looked at an article. I don't know. I
watched YouTube.
I've done it before. It's knowledge that you just keep carrying with you. And this is like you said, Ray. If someone's missing something, I probably have it in a parts bin somewhere. And we can make it work. If I don't have it nearby, I probably know someone who does have it, so we'll make it complete.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'll tell you what, we used to get it done.
Yeah.
We used to know how to get it done before YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
before the internet. I mean, now it's easy. If I'm looking at something and I'm like, what's going on here? Right away, I go on my phone and I Google it or I YouTube it, and I'm like, okay, great.
You find the one hidden bolt or the one, I'm guilty.
Well, the other day, I don't know how this happens, but it's kind of like everything my wife touches that has anything to do with electricity, electronics, eventually she figures out how to make it fail.
That's my oldest daughter.
I don't know.
A laptop, a cell phone, everything she's had is like it breaks or fries.
Right? We bought both of our cell phones the same day. Hers is psychotic, doesn't do the right thing. She's got an awesome computer, but she has a tendency to double click links instead of single clicking. And she doesn't know how to dump her internet, views and stuff. She doesn't get rid of emails. So she'll log on to her Google, email account, and there'll be 6,260 pieces of mail.
That's it.
And I'm like, really? Start erasing stuff. You wonder why things go so slow, because they don't work, because everything's bloated. So outside there's a keypad for the garage door. Somehow, some way, it don't work. I go out there, I hit the code, the door doesn't work anymore. So then I got to reprogram it. I couldn't find the instruction book to reprogram it, so I went on YouTube, and there I am with my phone going, okay, done. Yeah. So yeah, it's it's easy now. Anybody can be a pro. You don't have to have any kind of experience.
You don't have to be a pro. You just have to act like one, right?
As long as you follow the right link and not Bubba's.
There's been plenty of things that I needed to look up something, and everybody wants to have a YouTube video, and you get these monotone assholes that are trying to tell you how to do something, and it's like 15 minutes. This guy's droning on. Oh, well, you can push this and do that. I'm like, shut up. Next video.
Or you fell asleep when he gave the important part.
I have a rule.
Some people just should not be on YouTube at all.
When I look at a video and the guy's using a phone, that's not usually the worst thing in the world, because Terry does his stuff with a phone. So he does it well. But when I see the guy going into the car with one hand and the phone is following him with the other, and it's I'm like, no, I'm out. I'm done, because this ain't going to work. You just forget it, dude. Go.
There used to be a guy that did he sells Firebird parts on the net, and he would do these videos, and I used to follow him on Facebook, and I stopped because he's just a complete hack on how to restore stuff, and he would do the whole YouTube video with his iPhone, and it would be shaking, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's killing me.
See you later.
And he was a like a Kentucky redneck.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with the accent. I had to deal with the fact that every now and then he'd, the phone would come out of the car and you would see his property with 7 cars on jack stands and an old Ford pickup truck with no rear end in it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like I'd buy something from you. Not happening.
The Restoration King.
Hey, big news today.
What's that?
They busted a huge drugs. What's the drugs that are real popular now? Methamphetamine.
Right. Oh, meth. Yeah. Meth.
Yeah. They the feds and the locals were running an operation where they were buying stuff from these creeps for 7 months.
That's it.
Just a couple of miles away from where I live here in Plant City. Big thing on the news. And then I found a Facebook post all about it. And there was a big interview and helicopter view. And it was all fucking Mexicans.
All right. Yeah. Wow. Cash in on the American dream.
Yeah, exactly. So they bought a bunch of stuff from these guys over 7 months. They got their case together. And then they went in there in the middle of the night and raided the place.
Build the case.
Took them out. And I'm sitting there going, if it was my world, do your due diligence, everything that you got to do for your case, and know that you got the right people. Bust in there in the middle of the night and just kill everybody.
I mean, 5 a.m.
Kill them all. Just go in with machine guns and unload, Mexican belts full of bullets. Just,
and arrows.
I mean, kill everything, even the dog. and there's nothing alive. You know what I'm saying? Then you take the drugs,
That's the
and
cartel,
you take the
though.
money. Yeah, well, you take the drugs, you take the money. The feds and the police use the money to continue. The drugs wind up getting destroyed. I don't have to worry about putting these guys in prison. I don't have to worry about taking them to court. I don't have to worry about what's going to happen in the future. You just multiple bullets to the head. They're done.
Yeah.
Case closed. See you later. Bye. No more drug pushers. And then burn the house down. Now you got a lot that you can just bulldoze, and the county sells the lot to somebody else. See ya. Bye. Nice and simple. That's how you get rid of the drug dealers. You just kill them.
That's called sending a message.
That's sending a message, all right. Hell yeah.
Think about that. If the feds and the locals, the counties and the locals did that, every place they found a drug selling group, just kill them.
That's the thing. See, that's the way the cartels operate, to send a message to the other cartels and other gangs. And
I'm giving you a gift. I'm sending your message right back to you.
Right.
Keep your shit on the other side of the border.
Yeah.
I got no time for it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, on the other side of the border, these guys were just pawns that were expendable. So it's like, all right, we'll send in 8, 10, 12, 100 more.
Yeah. Well, these guys lived here, but they were all Mexican.
Yeah,
every one of them. And probably none of them actually belong here.
Well, that was a good note for your town today. Just got some.
The sheriff is ecstatic.
I got some sad news today. Willie Hassett just passed away.
Oh God!
I used to see Willie right up the corner here, and we got a drive shaft place that's attached to the auto parts store. And I'd go in there to hang with the guys, and Willie would be in there most afternoons. I would just sit and just bullshit with him.
He did a lot of wheel alignments for me over the years.
Yeah, great guy. So yes, sorry, Fun City Hauler. Sorry to hear that today, but he was in bad health. It was the last year or two. He was really in some dire straits. He didn't let it be known. He didn't talk about it. He kept a positive attitude, and everything was. He was just happy to see everybody, but inside he was having trouble.
I'm sorry to hear that. How old was he?
Willie is probably I'm gonna guess maybe 70, maybe his early 70s. I guess he looked older because he was a. He
wasn't a healthy guy.
No, not really. No, he had some foot issues, but so. Sad to hear that. So
used to tow that car with tow hubs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Freewheeling tow hubs and tow tabs.
Yeah.
He would tow that to Englishtown, tow it to Adco, tow it to Maple Grove, flat tow.
Yeah.
Besides National Speedway, Islip, Hamptons, all of those places.
Sure.
Oh, I read an article about EPCAL.
Yeah.
That group that the drag race guys hired to do the research as to how much money a permanent drag strip would bring to Long Island.
Yeah.
And they finished their report, and the numbers are really good. It would bring in on a continual basis. They say we're talking outside the drag strip. Hotels, restaurants, local shopping, things like that, gas stations, that it would bring in really close to or more than the U.S. Open every year.
Whoa.
And the U.S. Open only shows up on Long Island, like every 4 years or something?
Right.
Yeah. So, and they did their research based on population, the type of track that they really honestly feel that Long Island could support. We're not talking like a national event caliber Englishtown kind of a
super
track.
Z-Max or anything, yeah.
Right. A smaller local track that would be open X amount of days per year and have X amount of events. And they used actual tracks that exist in a populated area like Long Island to get their demographics. And
John, we had a guy,
with the problems that they had with that company, that aerospace company that owes the town of Riverhead a boatload of money. And he's like some sort of scammer. He had some kind of aerospace business. The business went under. It was in the newspapers. I've been reading it down here, but it's been all over Newsday lately. And he's the guy that actually has the lease to the runway that he pays Riverhead, and he hasn't paid in a couple of years, and And the guy's just like full of shit.
There was a guy from Florida came up here a few years ago, and what he does is he sets up tracks in areas in states, and what he does is he'll come in and out of his money, he'll fund it, set it up. It'll be a temporary basis. He goes, for one season, give me one season, and I'll show you the revenue that we brought in just from the track, because obviously there's nothing else set up. There's no hotels or anything. He says, and if you like that, he goes, I have a proposal to build a full-size track. He did it in Florida. He did it in Georgia. He did it in a couple of the southern states, and then he came up here, and it was like that died. It just because even though they wouldn't even let him do it. He said, hey, it's on my dime. What do you care? Because if I lose everything, it's on me. It's not on you.
Sure.
And they just the politicians wouldn't get behind it. But it's funny. I'm reading. I picked up I got old magazines out the wazoo, and I picked one up today. It's a 1971 Carcraft. So I'm reading it. And in the letter, I'm going to scan this. I'll send it to you guys. I'm probably going to put it on the website too.
Awesome.
A guy wrote in the letters article about a track on Long Island, about putting another track on Long Island. And he talked about feasibility. I mean, you could have wrote that letter today. I said, what the hell am I reading it? Yeah, it is 1971. It was bizarre that this stuff has been going on forever, and it's just obviously there's been no headway. But I'll scan it, send you a copy of it. You'll get a kick out of it.
I don't understand, what Riverhead is wasting their time about. The people that, when you have Riverhead Raceway, it used to be nothing around there.
Oh, and now it's. Did you see the movie?
Riverhead grew around that track.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you something. If they could get Riverhead Raceway out of there and move it someplace else, it would be phenomenal.
With blood dripping off their teeth, just waiting.
And they've got all this land that used to be Grumman.
Yeah,
right.
It's buffered. They used to make all kinds of noise over there forever.
Yeah. There's supposed to be a land swap. What happened though?
Yeah, they want to do this beautiful motorsports park. You could have circle track. You could have BMX for kids. You can have, drag racing, all this stuff. And it's like a no-brain situation here. What are you going to do with this land that's got pollution issues from Grumman all these years later?
That's part of it. It was a super fun site. Yeah.
Build on top of it. Keep going. Don't worry about it.
Concrete over.
Stupidity.
What happened to the land swap that was on the table? They were supposed to swap Grumman for Riverhead and transfer everything from Riverhead to Grumman.
Nothing ever happened.
And they had the quarter mile.
We had Lee Zeldin on the radio show a couple times when he was a senator out there, and he had great things. He was behind it. He backed it, and
nobody wants to support him.
And then you never hear after that because things just die, and you just no one ever reports the back end of it. So we don't know, Tori. It's you don't hear those stories unless you're an insider, you know somebody.
But it's just simple logic, though. It sounds reasonable if you give up, the Riverhead. Motorsports park as it is right now, and you do a land swap, you could build, a hotel, a restaurant, you could build whatever you want there. Exactly. Anything but a track, and just bring the track somewhere else that's a little bit outside of town, and everyone's happy. You could continue to develop that area within Riverhead and make a usable, space and put the motorsports park where Grumman was. It doesn't seem difficult or unreasonable, so I don't understand.
In a conversation level, it's never difficult. It's when you get the politicians involved, it gets difficult.
That's the problem. It's the politicians and the lawyers, and it's all about who's going to make money.
And the real shit that stops.
But you'll all make money, though. You'll all make money.
The real
but they're
stuff
not going to make it in their pocket.
That stuff always happens behind closed doors. The public never gets to hear about all the stuff that really happens and takes place.
Right.
So we can only guess, and it's just bureaucracy. It's. If Englishtown can go out, like, holy crap.
Yeah, that was a financial decision with them because the drag strip makes the least amount of money of that whole facility.
I went to the last shakedown when Roger Sterling crashed his GTO.
Yeah.
And that was the last shakedown in 2013. And there was some buzz in the stands, like, is this a prelude to things that are going to be happening down the road? And I didn't think of it at the time. It's all right. They lost an event, but the drag strip is still going. And here we are 6 years later. It's like, oh my God, that was the beginning of the end. The last shakedown, handwriting was on the wall. I mean, what a shame.
Well, the kids run the deal, and it's I talk to some people that kind of know what's going on. It's a money thing.
Yeah.
It's about how much. I mean, I've been to events there for years at Englishtown, and there's, I don't know, 150 people in the stands. How do you run an event like that?
Right.
You know, if you're not getting spectators, you're not making any money because you got staff that's got to get paid. You got chemicals that got to get laid down on the track. You have to have safety people there.
Right.
There's expenses to open the gates at the drag strip. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you get racers that come in, and the racers are paying X amount of money to be there to do what they're going to do. But it's the spectators that are bringing money into the track, because the money that the racers are paying, they're using that to pay them back on your payouts. So that's like a zero sum. So if there's no spectators, I've been to Super Chevy events where years and years and years ago, the place was packed. It was mobbed. Later on, in the late 80s, the early 90s, a couple of thousand people. Not enough to justify it.
Yeah, no concessions, no souvenirs,
So this thing with CarPart and these other companies that junk all these cars, that was a no-brainer for them. But they're getting all kinds of crap from the town because of pollution and other stuff. But the drift track is up and running. The motorcycle track is up and running. I heard they had the swap meet again. Yeah, I didn't get to go. And they've knocked down some of the retaining wall.
I saw
in the near the starting line, and that's not because they're getting rid of the track. It's because they want to be able to do like concert events and stuff, and the walls in that area were in the way. But if you were to see any kind of recent photos, you'd see that they only took away about 40 feet of Jersey barrier on each side. And it's not like that can't go back, but I don't think the track will ever be a drag strip again. It's, it's a shame. There's just so much history there. That's where Garlitz flipped his car over. Mm-hmm. Even the stuff that I did with the race car shop, our first 6-second pass was at Englishtown. A lot of the stuff I did with my cars through the years, the Nova, the 2 Firebirds. I spent a lot of time at that place. I sponsored Lane for 2 years.
Wow.
We gave prize money for like Wednesday night races. The place was awesome, and it was so cool to be part of a historic track. The Long Island stuff we had was historic. You got Hamptons I think Hamptons is like one of the oldest drag strips in the country. And now it's nothing but, townhouses. Yeah. But it was cool to say I was part of that, Yeah,
it's not too far from Jeff's shop,
Yeah. So, what's the other track? National Speedway. I was lucky enough to be able to race there the last 2 years that was open. There's a lot of stuff, but unlike here in Florida, where there's a track every couple of miles. Yeah. And they stay out late. I've been at Bradenton and Orlando, and they're running at 1:00 in the morning because there was like a weather delay, or maybe somebody had a major accident and took a long time to clean up. They just keep racing. There's no time limits.
That's what track lights are for.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bradenton. I don't know if either of you guys have ever been there. There's nothing around there. Nothing. You come off Interstate 75 and you drive, and then it gets less and less sparse as you go. And there's a couple of farms out there. Some strawberry farms, some vegetable farms. There's a couple of nurseries, and like every mile or two, you see a house. And usually in that house, there's a workshop, and there's probably a circle track car or a drag car there too.
That's pretty neat.
But there's nothing around there at all. You can make all the noise in the world. You could run Top Fuel cars at 2 a.m. and
No one will
Nobody
care.
say a word. Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know, Orlando, same thing. I've been at Orlando. That's out in the boonies also, and it's great. It's just awesome to be able to do that.
Get Sarah
Who knows? 20
extra.
years from now, you know, things may change in 20 years when more and more people keep coming here. We got to we got to get Trump to build a wall.
Yeah.
We don't want any more of you New Yorkers to stay there.
That's what Lou says. Stop sending them to North Carolina. You're ruining the place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, and I'm going to run. I made the joke about Sarah Edwards, running a Jet Dragster at 2 a.m. down in Florida. But she was on Toy Makers this past Sunday. And
I got to go back.
The show was really good.
I got to hook up my DVR because I used to watch every one of his episodes. And now he moved to what, History Channel?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I met him. He came here to Plant City.
Oh, really?
No kidding.
Yeah. That really, really cool rear engine car he built.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the body for that car was built right here in Plant City.
Oh, no
where
kidding.
I live. Yeah. There's a company called Star Creations.
Right. Oh, you were telling me about them. I remember.
Yeah. It was so weird. I was getting a haircut, and the guy cutting my hair goes, "You ever hear of this place, Star Creations?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "You ever watch this TV show, Toy Makers?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, you need to go watch the show." He says, "But they build a lot of custom fiberglass stuff." He says, and they built the body for this car that's been on TV. He said, and the episode of the car being completed is next week. He says, and they're bringing that car here, and it's going to be at this pub. They're going to have a viewing party, and the star of the show is going to be there with the car. And I'm like, get out of here. So I left after I got my hair cut. I went to Star Creations, and I went and met the guys there. It turns out they are the guys that build all the bodies for the monster trucks.
Did they build your dash for the Firebird?
Actually, they were going to build me the dash for the Firebird, and I found out that VFN actually makes a dash for the Firebird.
Gotcha.
So we discussed that, and he told me, he goes, buy the one from VFN. It's only $250. We didn't know.
Yeah.
And I actually happened to be on the VFN site. Every time I went on the site, I would do like a search for 79 to 81 Firebird because I want to put a new nose on the car.
Right.
So I see the link for VFN, and it would take you to the page that was devoted to 79 to 81. Going back, I don't know, 5-6 weeks, I went on just VFN.com, and I started drilling down because I was actually looking for something for the 67 Camaro. And then when I got to Firebird, I was kind of like strolling through all the listings. And there it said 1974 dashboard. And I'm like, it's the same dashboard from 70 to 81.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So I called them the next day. And the guy goes, yeah, we have to change the listing. He says, we didn't know that it was the same dashboard, from 70 to 81. So I'm like, cool. So I'm going to be using that. That's the dashboard I'll put in the car.
Save money. But yeah, like I was saying, though, Sarah was on Toy Makers, and she was very good. She was very articulate. She represented herself, her brand extremely well. It was a good show, and the ending was spectacular, too. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but you guys check out the ending, because she had a really good line. And that was like, drop the mic.
Cool.
Show was over. We're going home. We're leaving. It was really good. You'll enjoy the episode.
That's awesome.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I was pretty impressed. When I met these guys, they have a huge facility here. I was like, how did I not know about this?
Yeah, right in your backyard, right?
It's one of those places. There's no signs or anything.
Yeah.
So if you don't know the address, you're not going to know these guys.
Yeah.
But it turns out that one of the owners of the business used to work for a company called U.S. Body Source, which is here. And he left and opened up his own deal. And then he built a body for somebody with a monster truck. And somebody else saw the body, and then this guy got hooked up because that truck thing is owned by the same people that own WWE.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's like a offshoot corporation. So that whole monster truck series has something to do with the WWE people.
Gotcha.
So he got his foot in the door, and he builds the bodies for like 10 of those trucks.
That's pretty
so
neat.
Now you walk in there and you'll see Samson, you'll see
Gravedigger.
They're working with the guy that builds the Bigfoots.
Oh, no kidding.
They're doing recreations of older Bigfoots to go out on a show tour. So they're building Bigfoot bodies, and they have all the equipment where they can scan something. So they go with this machine and they digitize just by looking at a part,
Yeah.
And then they can modify it in the computer, and then they send it. They have gave me a full tour. They have a huge CNC machine that'll mill styrofoam. So you can physically scan something, make changes to it, hit a button, send it to the CNC machine, load it with a big giant piece of styrofoam, and it cuts away everything to build you a full-size 3-dimensional part.
Wow.
And then from there, they gel coat that, and that's how they create the mold.
It's almost like a 3D printer, but except they do it on the CNC machine.
Right, exactly. They do on a CNC machine to come up with this high-density styrofoam part. So, like, say you were going to do a bumper to a 67 GTO. They would scan a bumper, run it through the program to make sure that all of the dots are where they belong.
Right.
Build one out of styrofoam. Then they put the gel coat and they fiberglass that styrofoam, which is the plug. And then when they pop that styrofoam out, now you have your mold that you could build your bumpers out of.
That's really neat.
And you're only wasting a piece of styrofoam. You don't have to use the original bumper.
There was a funny story that I learned years ago about a drag car. It was an early funny car called the Ingenue. It was a 66 Buick. I guess it was what the hell model was it? It was an A body.
So it was a Skylark.
Yeah, it was the Buick Dealers Group. Billy, I heard the story from Billy Lynch, because he knew the guys. He was associated with these guys in Brooklyn. They both had body shops. He knew the guy that owned this Buick dealership, and they actually sponsored with other dealers this drag car. So that the team wanted to put the new Skylark out for the season, but they didn't have a body. So what they did was they went to the Buick dealership in Brooklyn, I think it was on Kings Highway, and it was a long weekend. It was a holiday weekend. There was some reason the dealership would have been closed for a couple of days where they would have been open. And what they did is they took this car. It was actually a customer's car that was going to be picked up Monday morning. They took it and they sealed off all the window openings. They sealed the door gaps with tape and everything. And they freaking poured fiberglass. They fiberglassed the whole outside of this car and made a positive mold of it.
Oh, God.
And then with that, they made a reverse mold to make another body.
Yeah,
except they made it back, and I mean, this is back in '66. So the thing was like 3/4 of an inch thick in spots, just so so reinforced, And they made this funny car body out. And I got pictures of it, as a flip up body.
That's
and they
crazy.
campaigned that car, and it was a class winner. And then of course the customer picked up the woman picked up her Skylark on Monday morning, smelling of resin and
What'd you do to it? Nothing.
It's got such a nice shine on it.
I love the smell of resin.
Yeah, the best thing was hearing Billy tell a story, because he really can, he can spin a tale. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's really.
I found a place. I didn't even know this place existed. I was in Clearwater, and I'm driving, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this sign, and it's a place that it's huge, like a supermarket huge, that just sells anything that has to do with fiberglass.
Oh, wow.
Every kind of resin that you can think of, whether it's something that you're going to build You want something that's flexible. You want something that's stiff. You want something that has certain properties. There's every kind of resin, every type of thinner, every type of additive.
Wow.
Huge rolls of mat. Whether it's the chop gun stuff turned into a mat, whether it's certain weaves, like, you know, the kind of weave they use for different parts of a boat is like a quilt. You know, when you look at the way it's put together, there's fiberglass that looks just like a sheet. Right. That's, you know, got certain flexible properties. These guys have everything. Yeah. And then they have all kinds of different colored gel coats and every kind of tool that you can think. I couldn't believe there was an aisle of tools just for like getting the air bubbles out. These little rollers and these picks and I'm like, I never saw so much stuff in I couldn't believe it. I took the guy's card and he was like, they give classes if you want to start learning how to work with fiberglass. Yeah, they have 2 classes a week, I think Wednesday and Friday nights. It was just awesome. They do demonstrations. Like I said, all these different types of resins, quick dry, slow dry, you know, all kind. I'm like, I didn't think a place like that existed.
Yeah.
It was crazy, you know, that it is near the water in Clearwater. So I'm sure that a lot of the customers are boat yards, boat building companies, things like that. But it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Interesting stuff, you know, you just happen to be driving around and there it was.
You never know.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to run before I fall out of my chair. I'm just kind of like doing the...
Well, we're going to get bounced in about 4 minutes anyway.
Yeah. Usually a couple of minutes after 11, this thing just shuts off.
We had that cold end this week and just done.
Yeah. Gotcha. It's weird. It gives you no warning at all. There's like no countdown clock. It just shuts off and then it resets and starts to play a video of the prior. Yeah.
So I'll say goodnight now before I get kicked off or fall out of the chair, whichever comes first.
Good idea. So, if you could send me Brad's info tomorrow or whatever. Yeah, I'm in no rush.
I'll do it now real quick. Yes, no problem.
Tom Cotter coming on the barn. He's doing a show called The Barn Hunter on YouTube. He's a Long Island guy. And we had him in the studio years ago. We were, when I haven't been in touch with him now for a number of years. So I reached out to him. I'm watching this YouTube video. I'm like, that's Tom Cotter. I know that's Tom Cotter. And sure enough, it was Tom, and he's going to come back on Sunday. So we'll talk about, he finds cars. He went to where American Pickers is, LeClaire, Iowa, and said, I'm going to find a car within a block of their place. And he did. He said, that's just what he does. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so we're going to have him on Sunday. We're going to have some fun with Tom.
Nice.
So,
all right. Man. All right.
Cool deal. All right, boys.
Yeah, I'm out. I got to go to Orlando tomorrow morning, go talk to a new client.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I hear you got it. Excellent.
Yeah. So there it is. I got his number and his email address. That's his. That's okay. That's great. Good. Thank you, Tori.
Guys, get all your income tax done on time.
Oh yeah, he's a guy, so he did it, and we're okay. He told me last year to go change my shit around with HR, and I did it. He said to me, he goes, how many clients you have do you think did it? And I said, I don't know, 25%. He goes, no, so far I'm seeing like less than 20%. He goes, and everybody's pissed off because they're paying. He goes, people that used to get back, like $1,000 and now paying $3,000. So they're really upset. And he goes, they just didn't listen to me. He says, you listen to me. So, you're all right.
I'm paying big this year because that Orlando business that we took over upped the income substantially. And I didn't up my tax contributions enough.
Yep.
So now I know what to do, but this year I got to pay.
Yeah. Well, you live and learn.
So, it stinks. But what are you going to do?
I had to pay $100 to get $3 back.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. TurboTax got $102.50 and he got $3 back. How about I'll fill the return out, keep the $3.
Yeah.
And TurboTax gets nothing. Is that
Oh God.
Amazing.
I have a good accountant. He's great, and he's a customer of mine. So every 3 weeks we take care of his aquarium, and then I leave the invoice under the little magnet cleaner on the glass.
Yeah,
and then he sends a check, and he takes a chunk out of my invoice, puts it right towards our accounting, and then he writes me a check for the balance. So it's like totally awesome. So I never have to write him a check.
It works out well.
Yeah, it just gets done, you know.
Barter is good. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh, it's awesome. He's a good guy too. He knows what's going on.
That's good.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy.
Cool.
All right, boys. I'm out of
All
here.
right, fellas.
Good night, everybody.
Good seeing you. Hey, who's coming on next week?
Next week we have the folks from Sherwin-Williams Paint coming on. So
really? Cover the world.
Yeah, cover the world.
Sherwin-Williams Paint, the SWP. Yeah, I'll post that tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you guys will see on Instagram and stuff.
Tori, if you could, because I don't know if anybody else has said this. I forget a lot of times. If you could post that again, like later in the week, like maybe the day or the day before. I found out with the radio show, I'd post stuff too early and people would never remember. So I had to start doing it like the day before. And like, okay, now I got it. And now I'm in the same boat because I was trying to think like, oh, who's coming on this week? I know I saw it. Like,
and the other thing is, you need to make sure that you post the link to get here.
Yeah, I did that.
I went to the last post, like I went on the Plane and Traffic Facebook page.
Right.
And there was a thing from Louis Lee about somebody gave him something. And then below it, which was an earlier post, was the little ad for tonight.
Right.
But that wasn't a link. So then I texted you and then I texted him, but then I wound up going back on it and I scrolled down like 3 or 4 posts below that. And then there was the link to get here. So we need to get that link out, a couple of hours before the show, or at least an hour before the show.
Yeah, I can do that. It's easy enough.
So people can click on it,
Sounds good.
Cool.
I'll do that.
You need to call Tim McCamus. Tim McCamus Race Cars. He needs to get on. He's a true American, and he's an awesome chassis builder.
Text me his info, and I'll take care of it, okay?
All right. I'll send it to you.
Excellent.
All right. I'll see you guys.
Good night, everybody. Good seeing you. Good night, Ray. Good night, Joe.
Bye-bye. All righty.
See you later.
Thanks.
All right. How the hell do you get out of this stupid thing? We do this.